Welcome to the Soar podcast, the place for creative entrepreneurs with limitless dreams and unconventional stories. I'm your host, Ray Hyde Cornell, founder and business mentor at Chiron Consulting and CEO and senior copywriter at Cornell Content Marketing. My goal is to bring you stories of what's possible so you can never tell yourself that your dreams are impossible. Okay, so today we have Passini, a designer and illustrator from Manureva Studios. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your business. What exactly do you do? Who do you work with? And what do you really love to do for your clients?
Yeah, so I am the founder and creative director of Manureva Studio, like you said, and we are a creative studio where we make visuals that we create visuals that make brands come alive, and that's through mostly branding. We usually create full branding experiences for clients who are launching the brand. But we can also work with more established brands where we'll do a refresh of their current branding or some smaller projects like packaging or content creation or this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we also we can do illustration as well. We have designers who are really talented with this. So that includes like some social media content or brand illustration, sometimes app design. We're very 360, I guess, but with a focus on beautiful visuals and fine arts inspired techniques.
Oh, awesome. Which I feel like is such a huge trend nowadays, especially for product-based businesses that are in e-commerce and in the subscription industry. It seems like they're really going in this more artistic, like really emphasizing the aesthetic part of debuting their brands to the world.
Absolutely. I think, I don't know where your listeners are based, but I'm based in New York, and I think it's probably one of the cities where there is the most competition in new startups and new businesses. They're all competing for your attention. When we used to take the subway, there's in New York, like all of the ads are really created and they all have this really distinctive style, and brands have really appreciated how important it is to have a unique aesthetic. And it's great for a designer. We love being recognized for what we can bring to the table, and they usually trust us to create something really stunning and unique. So absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that you have designers. So does that mean that you're an agency?
Yeah, we're a small agency. To be transparent, it's me, like I said, founder and creative director. I have a project manager, and then we only have like freelancers. So those designers work with us on a regular basis, but they're not full-time necessarily.
I see. Okay. So you have a team of independent contractors.
Yeah, exactly. People who I reach out regularly, always the same people. They know how we work. They know how our clients work because we have a lot of recurring work with specific clients as well. So it's been really amazing building this community, I guess, like tiny community, but like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like those little micro agencies, because that's exactly how my business is too. We have myself who's full-time, and then my assistant who's mostly full-time, but she's still technically an independent contractor. And then we have our writers and designers and developers who are all independent contractors. But it does feel like this little micro community that we've created for ourselves. And it seems like you've done that with a very forward emphasis on having aesthetic and this artistic element to all of your work as that center of your values within the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we really choose designers who have their own style, who can bring something to the table. And that doesn't mean that our style is super diverse. I think clients know what we can do and what they approach us for. But like our designers have a really specific style that we usually seek out, and that doesn't mean that we don't like the fact that they work with us. We still really try to encourage their unique aesthetic as well, because that just brings so much to us.
Right. So I'm assuming you didn't jump right into being an agency owner when you started your freelance journey. Is that right? How did you get to this point?
Yeah, it actually happened really quickly and much quicker than I thought. I'm very fortunate to be able to say that. But when I quit my full-time job in December 2019, I started working full-time as a freelancer. I immediately had the workload to work full-time, I guess, which was really nice. And then by May, I was hiring help 2 days a week and then more and more. So
Wow.
yeah, and it became pretty evident quickly, like maybe in March, that the freelance structure was not going to work. So we like established an actual studio back then, so that clients would feel more like they were working with the studio for obviously like legal purposes and everything. But yeah, that's how it worked very fast.
So I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. They've gone from that full-time position, maybe they're building their freelance business on the side, or maybe they just go, you know what, I'm just gonna pull the ripcord and jump right into full-time freelance. What tips do you have for someone who's gone through or is thinking about going through, I should say, that process of leaving full-time employment and going full-time freelance, especially as a designer?
Yeah, I think yeah, as a designer, I think it's more of a clear path. I was going to say like it depends on your industry, but as designers, we are lucky that I guess when you launch your studio or when you go freelance, your only expenses yourself, your computer and your softwares. We don't have that big overhead, so that's a lot less scary. And for designers as well, it's not that hard if you're allowed by your previous employer to start working freelance on the side. That's like obviously like the most helpful. And if you're not allowed, I would say you can still make like some personal projects for your social media, and obviously like be on every single social platform that you can find. But yeah, like my number one tip is to start. For me, like I started progressively, like I started having freelance clients on the side, figuring out how to price what my worth was, how clients responded to that without having the pressure of making a full-time salary. So yeah, that was super helpful to prepare myself. And then I ended up having so many inquiries that I was like very tempted to take on, but didn't have time to. So like, yeah, maybe that means that I would probably be able to sustain a salary on my own, I guess.
Yeah. So did you hit that point of feeling like you had so much work but not enough time? Did you hit that before or after you left your full-time job?
I would say before. I remember like a few months of just not knowing what free time was anymore, which is fine. I think most entrepreneurs have to go through that point. I would just say, like, I don't think it would have been good for me to be in that season for too long. But yeah, I was hitting that point earlier on, but I would not necessarily have been scared to go on my own before that even, because I'm lucky enough to not have anyone depend on me financially. So I don't have kids or anything. So it would have been okay for me to be a bit stressed for the first few months, like sort of figuring it out. But I think taking a leap, taking risks can only bring, well, usually it brings bigger things. They say, you have to invest money to make money or spend money to make money. And I think, yeah, like risks really pay off a lot. So yeah, I want to say, like, to someone who's hesitant, sometimes it will be super hard to like create this roster of clients when you're still working full time for someone else. So it's not like you can also like do it before having that this amount of inquiries or anything.
Yeah. So I think to your point, you were very lucky to, and it seems like this was by design, no pun intended, but you were very lucky to have clients before you left your full-time job. You got to that point where you just didn't even have free time anymore. You accepted that state of, I'm probably going to be stressed and just working in this business pretty much 24/7 for a few months. And then by taking that leap of faith and having that faith in yourself to deliver, you were able to shorten that runway that most people, it takes people years to build up to that agency level if that's what they wanted. But for you, it took from, I think you said September 2019 to May of 2020. Is that right?
December 2019.
December. So, okay. So even shorter, even shorter. So 5 months, you were able to go from solo doing these side gigs, freelancing on the side, up to starting an agency, starting a design studio?
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, I never realized how fast that was, I guess. That sounds good when you say it.
Well, and so what do you attribute your success to?
So I would say before, like I was saying, like before I left, still being a bit unsure of what was next, I was still willing to work my ass off to like fill those extra days if I had any, like to do all the marketing that I could, reach out to clients, reach out to any dream brands or anything. And then, like you said, it's very by design that we grew. I know that some of my friends or freelancers that I know don't have that goal. They kind of want to stay independent, really be in control of their time 100%, choose their client 100%, again, like be able to say no to so many people. I think it's maybe a personality trait where it's harder for me to say no, but also like I didn't have any, I'm interested in working with a lot of different industries. I don't want my client base to be too narrow, so I was saying yes to a lot of different things at the very beginning and seeing new things as opportunities to learn and grow. Whereas like some people are very brave and they're like, no, this is not for me, which I also admire totally. But I think my goal was, yeah, like to grow because I wanted to be able to reach to like bigger clients. And I felt like if I stayed on my own, I would not necessarily have the time to do all the things that I wanted to do, basically.
So you just said a bunch of things that I want to go back and ask you more about. So one of the things was you said that you reached out to your dream clients. I mean, tell me about this process. What was your process for getting clients, especially once you were out on your own, you were no longer at your full-time job? How did you bring in new business?
People always ask me this, and at the beginning, I think clients would reach out to me based on my online portfolio, whether that's Behance. Yeah, like if you have designers listening to this, I would highly recommend Behance, Working Not Working. Instagram also a lot, obviously. Your website, don't forget that. Like we tend to not update it as often as we should because you don't really know when people look at your website because they don't comment or anything, but they do. I didn't have to reach out to that many people directly. But I definitely did a couple of times, like through Instagram, and people were super nice. No, not through Instagram, sorry, through email. I would recommend that more. I think it looks more serious. And more often than not, like people would be like, oh, we didn't know about your work, but we love it. And if we ever need this or that, we'll reach out. But yeah, like I would attribute having clients from the very beginning to putting our work out there and doing personal projects or just even like fun sketches, or like on Instagram we would just post outtakes of things that we had done. Like my vision was to put as much of my style out there as possible. It's just a numbers game too. People, like, the more you put out there, the more people are going to see you and hear about you.
Hearing you talk about this process, it just makes me think that you must be fearless, because I know so many creatives, myself included, who we are so tentative about what we put out. Is this perfect? Is everyone going to like it? Does this represent my brand? Is anybody going to get offended by this? All of those aspects. But to hear you say that you would just do fun sketches and put things out there, put your outtakes out on Instagram. I mean, was there ever any level of fear or worry involved in that? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Oh, it's a very good point. I think about that often because I do publish things pretty often, and I always I should be more of a perfectionist. Like a lot of designers are ultra perfectionists, and I am kind of the school of thought that done is better than perfect, and that's been how I've worked. That being said, I still have vulnerability whenever I put something. A lot of it, I have to say. And your other point was, I also don't. I kind of want to please everyone, which is, I think, a fault. But I've been trying to, I think, since school, trying to be like, it's actually a good thing not to please everyone, because that means that you're offering something specific that's not for everyone. And that's fine. And I think through working with another studio in my full-time job and having a boss, I really sort of put my ego aside and was like, I don't have too much emotion attached to my work. It's which is a good thing when you're a designer and not like a fine artist. It's a huge difference. I'm still working for clients at the end of the day, and totally fine if they have something to say about it. Like, I'm here to be adaptable, and it's not about my ego. So that's a tip that I would recommend for people who feel very vulnerable publishing stuff.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you mentioned that that's a fault, but honestly, I think that's something that we all struggle with at some point, is wanting to make sure that we're pleasing everyone, because you never know where that next job is going to come from. But it sounds like what you're saying is ultimately you have to stay true to you and do what feels right for yourself. And the right clients will find you, will love your work, and will want to work with you, and will, in your case, reach out.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I really admire people who have a strong personality and even a niche more than like people who kind of please everyone. And nothing wrong with that, because I don't think I'm super specific, and I don't think I have like a really specific niche yet. But yeah, I really admire people who have their style and don't care about anything else. Like, I had, when I was back in school, I had this scrapbook with a lot of quotes and inspiring things. And I wrote this quote in huge, which said, build your own system. And I wanted building my own style and not be too influenced by outside trends or anything like that. And it's definitely a work in progress. I'm not there yet, but
yeah. So building on that and going back to something that you said earlier was around saying no. That you know of designers who they just want to stay independent, they really want to have control over their time, and they feel comfortable saying no to projects that aren't just the exact perfect right fit. What's your take on that within the design world? Do you feel like that's something that designers need to do more of, saying no to projects that aren't the right fit? Or do you think that, especially in the early stages of building your freelance business, it's important to take on a wide variety of different projects and say yes to, I don't want to say everything, but just about everything, to get as much experience as possible? Or is there something in the middle of the road there?
I think both routes are really interesting. I think about saying no to certain projects. When you're starting, it is important when the client is not necessarily respecting your expertise or not paying enough, because obviously that hurts you, but that hurts the industry. So, and I've seen, like, not that clients want to exploit any resources or anything, but some people are not educated on what design should cost or how long it takes or this kind of thing. So there is a way where like saying no is a good thing for sure. And then as for like people who want to say no or yes, if like it's not the exact specific client that they want to have, I think it's for sure a personal choice. For us, I've always felt like things that don't necessarily are like in my comfort zone, or the client that I would expect, or the next dream client that I want, if that other type of client reaches out, I do like to see it as a challenge, a way of learning, a learning curve. So for me, it's been too exciting to say yes to new things. But yeah, like my friend, also named Mode, she's the most talented designer that I know, and I know that she only takes like a small amount of clients, and I really admire that. I just can't do it because I'm too excited by everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes total sense. And it's kind of like this, what's coming next? What is this going to turn out to be? And the thing I love about design work, I have absolutely no artistic talent whatsoever, none. And the thing I admire so much about designers is that you guys seem to be able to, you have your own aesthetic, but then a new client comes in with some wild, outlandish idea that you've never thought of before, and you're able to create something for them that fits the vision in their head, even though that didn't come from you, that came from them, but you're able to bring it to life. And it sounds like it's that process that really excites you, the new thing coming around the corner.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I think my favorite type of inquiry usually is for a full branding, because you're starting from scratch. And there is nothing more rewarding, I think, than presenting your vision, your creative vision or your creation, and people being like, oh my God, like this is exactly what I had in mind, or even better, it's better than what I had in mind. Because I think that's where we kind of have to, it's our expertise, I guess, like surpass what they were thinking of. And yeah, it is so exciting. It's a challenge. And I would say, again, like a tip for anyone who's starting, at the very beginning, I thought that the current project was the last idea I would ever be able to have. And I had this huge anxiety when I would start a new project, being like, how am I going to find the right idea for this project? Because it's not just about putting colors together or like doing this thing. I think every single project has a concept behind it, like a story that the visuals tell. Even if you can't really tell when you look at the visuals, this whole concept is the structure of the project. And it was very anxiety inducing to be like, am I going to have an idea on the next project? And it's definitely something that becomes easier with time.
So is there something that you do to, because I'm thinking of any of my writers who are listening as well. I mean, coming up with new blog post ideas. I wrote for a cat litter company for over 3 years. And oh my goodness, every single month, I thought there's no way I could come up with any more ideas about cat litter of all things. And yet you do. So are there any tricks that you have or any practices that you've developed to really hone that creative power in your brain to constantly be coming up with new ideas?
Yes. My process, I think, has become more and more structured with time. The first part is actually sort of building a like foolproof system. So at the beginning of the project, we do a lot of background research about the client, and we create like a creative brief that highlights all the important things that the client wants to express through their visuals or any piece of creation that you're going to do for them. It can apply to writing. So that's like the base, and the things that will always go back to when we are looking for new ideas to make sure that we still respond, still like answer that we are in line with what the clients want to say. And then we do mood boards. We think conceptually before we think visually. Like, I know, for example, like if a client wants to appear young and fresh, I'll try to express that through images for us. So these kind of mood boards are like a library of ideas, I guess, that we could go back to if we are lacking ideas later. And then I would say like the second part of finding inspiration is a lot less structured, and it's probably unique to everyone, but I would still recommend people to do it. For me, it's just shutting my computer down and going for a walk and really thinking for like an hour. And your thoughts are this, like when you're thinking of something, then you're thinking of the next thing and the next thing. And at the end of this chain of thoughts, there is an interesting idea, kind of like a drawing that you continue applying to, I think. That's why I always say that time is a huge component of good art. You can't come up with an idea on the spot. You have to think about it and think about it. And that's how you create a unique idea as well, because your first idea is very rarely going to be unique.
Yeah. And I love that you're mentioning this. Set aside your computer, go for a walk, get out of the digital world, get into the physical, the nature, that sort of thing. Get into your head, start thinking, because we have the Price Yourself Perfectly workshop at Chiron. And one of the things that we talk about in that workshop is accounting for all the time that's not billable. And yes, your clients have to pay for that time, the time that you take on a walk to come up with these ideas, to come up with the concepts and start putting the visuals together in your head before they ever make an appearance in any sort of pixelated form. That's part of the project. And so how do you respect your time as an artist to accommodate for that time, allow yourself the room for that time within your pricing? So how was that something that you tackled in leaving your full-time job and knowing that you had to provide for yourself a full-time salary once you left? How did you figure out your pricing?
That's a very good question, because it is really hard, and still something that I try to be better at. when you go on your own and you only depend on yourself to make money, you're going to hate every minute that's not productive. And at first, it was much easier to try to find out and to find inspiration like on Pinterest or like still being on my computer. And I kind of heard, this advice of shutting down your computer and leaving the digital world. But it's so hard when you want to be productive and stuff. I think I really learned that time invested is time saved. I had a friend who told me, like meditation, you think you don't have time to do 15 minutes of meditation, but it will save you time during your day. And that could not be more true. So just like people, need to be less afraid, I think, of losing time, quote unquote. And so in terms of pricing, I remember at school, they told us, how much do you need to make in 1 month? Take into account the vacations that you're going to take later in the year, your rent, your computer, obviously your software, is like everything. And how does that divide into the number of hours that you're going to work? So if you want to work only like 5 hours a day, how much are you going to have to be making in an hour? So I think that's a base for pricing, your hourly rate. But obviously that rate changes depending on a few factors. Again, I came across, like at the very beginning of my career, I came across this website that would help you price yourself. So the components, I think, were your hourly rate, how much you want to do a project. Is it a really exciting project? So that means you can maybe price a little less, or is it like a slightly boring project? Then you're going to have to bump it up. And how much, and are you going to be happy to put it in your portfolio? Is it going to bring on clients and this kind of thing? So these factors come in and out. And now, a few years into my career, I do things much quicker. So I'm not going to bill hourly anymore at all. I do know, however, like the value of what I bring. So if we do a logo for a super small startup who hasn't launched yet, obviously, we're going to cover all time, the freelancer's time, everything that comes into our pricing. But also, I know that these people don't have a huge exposure yet, and they haven't invested that much money or whatever. So we can be a bit less pricey on that one. But if it's a bigger brand who already has a website, they have like a certain number of people visiting their website each month, they have a lot of exposure, and this logo is going to really make them make money. It's going to make them money, then our price is going to be much higher because the value of what we deliver is so much bigger. And I don't know if it's me, but I think I've heard this theory a lot, but it still probably needs to be repeated. Like, you don't price your time, you price the value of what you sell. Yes. And a lot of times the value of what you sell is also defined by how much people are going to pay for it. Because if you're more in demand, they're going to pay more. And that's super fair too. So,
yeah, I absolutely love that you just said that you don't charge hourly anymore, because that is a personal mission of mine, to get freelancers away from charging hourly for the exact reason that you said, which is that you're very quick at what you do. So why would you charge hourly? You're quick, you're experienced, your product is high value, and so you're going to bill less because it took you less time. Like, that's so backwards. So I just love everything you just said. That's perfect. Perfectly summed up. So you have all of these systems in place now. It sounds like you did a lot of work to really perfect your pricing, but what was the tipping point for you? How did you know in your gut? How did you know instinctually that you were ready to leave that full-time job and go out on your own?
I think I was thinking about that earlier, and it's funny, but I think for me, it's the people around me. I remember when I was deciding what career I was going to go towards, I had people around me say, like, you're meant to do this. And it really had an effect on me. And maybe that's because I'm influenced too easily. I don't know. But I think it was like realizing how people saw me. And I think for going on my own, it's similar. Like I said, I had inquiries. So some people trusted me. And then just like amazing mentors around me, people who had done the same thing before, and who were so inspiring. And I also realized, when I I moved from France to New York right after school. And when I got here, I was so impressed by absolutely everything and everyone. And then after a few months or a few years, I was finding myself at like the same parties or same industry events as people who I really, really admired. So I was like, oh, it shows that working makes you like grow and attain some goals. And I am at the same level as this incredible person was a couple years ago. So I can grow. There is some potential here. So why not also do the same as them and take the leap? And yeah, so I think people being encouraging and inspiring around me was a huge thing.
Yeah. And it sounds like, if I'm doing the math right in my head, very rough, abstract math, it sounds like it was able to accelerate the progression of your business. You know, you were saying that these people that you admired years ago, now all of a sudden you were at their same level. I mean, you must have been able to accelerate your growth, your development as a freelancer and as an artist in order to be able to basically catch up to them and then be in those same circles and continue to up level.
I guess so. I think it's really hard to sort of measure how much you've grown, like when you're in the thing. But yeah, like definitely, it's a good thing that you're saying that, because we have to look back sometimes and be like, oh my God, I have grown so much actually, and you don't always realize that. So yes, for sure. But I also always say that I, I think I don't like, my goal is not to grow fast necessarily. So I think it's just like a side effect, a positive side effect of all the hard work that we've put into it. But yeah, that makes sense.
So you mentioned that you worked with mentors. Do you have any tips for people who are looking for mentors or are looking for, as you described, you know, surrounding yourself with people, having the right people around you to help them grow their careers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think my first boss when I got to New York City is an amazing designer. I owe so much to him. He was an incredible mentor. He really taught me much more than just design. Like about the industry, how to trust myself, and mostly how to find my unique voice. I guess that's one of the things that I owe him the most. And I wasn't looking for a mentor when I found him. So that was like really incredible. And then I think from there, I also saw that in New York, people, and probably more than, no, I don't know. I was going to say more than in Paris, but my impression is that in New York, people are really generous with their time and really generous with their experience. So like I was just mentioning, when I realized that these people who I really admired were not that far to reach, I could email them and actually like go and see their studio or this kind of thing. I was like, I should absolutely, and I didn't know how long I was going to be able to stay in the States. At first, I thought I was going to stay for 6 months, and it's been 7 years. So I was like,
extended vacation.
Absolutely. And yeah, it felt like a vacation for so long because I was so impressed by everything. But I was like, oh, if I only have 6 months in the States, you bet I'm going to make the most of it and meet this incredible woman. Obviously, you want to be respectful of people's time. But yeah, whenever I would email someone and be like, can we jump on a call or grab coffee, or can I just pop by your studio? They were more than happy to do it. And when people do that to me now, I usually take the time because you get something from it too. So for, I guess, like mentors, inspiring people, that's really helpful. And then I also was on the panel once for freelancing females, and I was on this call, like I guess a coaching call, like that was included in the event. With this really incredible entrepreneur. And after that, I reached out to her and was like, do you offer coaching calls? And she happened to do that. So she gave me like a few weeks of coaching as well. So reaching out is much more rewarding than you would think it is. Even for like the biggest introvert, very shy person, English is not my first language. I still did it. So I think you can too.
Yeah, I love that you kind of had this accidental pressure on you to make the most of that time that you thought you had. You thought you had 6 months. You're like, I'm going to make the most of this, like carpe diem. And then it turned out to be much longer. But it sounds like that 6 months of time really pushed you to make some moves that really built your career.
Yeah, I think this attitude stays after that, because you realize how lucky you are to be here and you want to make the most of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Maud. This has been amazing having you on. So if people want to see your art, your work, your portfolio, and what you're doing in the world, where can they check you out?
Thank you so much. So our Instagram for the studio is manureva.studio. So that's MANUREVA.studio. We post on Instagram a lot. We have the website is manurevastudio.com. My Instagram is at Maud Passini, MAUDPASSINI. And I started a quick series of interviews as well in a podcast format, and we released that at the beginning of the year. And we're going to do a second season in the summer, and the name is The Creative Minute. So you can find that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Ray again. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, and more. And want to be a guest on the show or know someone who has an amazing story of entrepreneurship? Apply on our website at www.chironconsulting.us/podcast.